How are you doing today? I hope you're having a good day. It's a day the Lord has made, and I hope you'll take the time to do something for God that you didn't do. Always look for improvement every day. That's what God wants us to do. He wants us to grow in all respects. Hope you will do that. I want to give a shout out to my wife Linda, her birthday today. Anyway, let's get on with our lesson. The title of the lesson is Respect the Elderly. In Leviticus 19 and verse 32, it reads, "You shall rise up before the gray-headed and honor the aged, and you shall revere our God. I am the Lord." In Leviticus 19, God gives out just a whole bunch of little specific commands here and there that some of them don't even relate to each other, but still they're laws that God has given to his people. And when God gives laws to his people, he expects his people to pay attention to those laws. And one of those is to honor and respect the gray-headed, the elderly. And it seems like many people in our world today are ignoring this great treasure, a treasure that could provide great benefits if we just paid attention. And as we go through the various stages of life, we see this play out in many different ways. One of our problems in our society is the fact that the young people, they want to take over and they don't want to make the same mistakes of the past. Well, that's what they think. Usually they end up repeating the mistakes of the past, but they don't see it that way. See, the great treasure that we so often take for granted is our elderly folk. And some of them are treated with great respect, yet they are mistreated in so many different ways. And it's like a situation where at a busy restaurant, two young people who are waiting to be seated sat down and played on their cell phones. And meanwhile, an elderly couple came in and they were told to wait also. And instead of the young people getting up and offering them their seats, they wouldn't do that. And even though the lady was even using a walker. And just no respect. And we see this play out time and time again in our society. And everyone knows it's not right, but the younger set, they really don't care. And so, as we grow and mature, and hearing such things really disappoints us. Because it is sad our society fails to respect our elderly, those who have gone on before us, those who have the experience. And they are really, in a sense, the ones who brought us to where we are now. Now, we look at our society and it seems to be failing right now, so who are we going to blame? Well, we want to blame the elderly because, let's face it, they brought us where we were. But it's our elderly into the greatest prosperity and made us the greatest nation in the history of mankind. And as far as the physical world, but still, society fails to respect our elderly. And so all of our blessings are here because of what they went through. Many of our freedoms are here because they were willing to live and die for this country. They went to war to keep oppression away. And now, all of a sudden, it seems like half the country, they want that oppression to come upon us and destroy us. And that really doesn't make any sense. And I'm sure the elderly are crying every day because of what they see in our world. All right, so there seems to be a common thread that once a person gets old and can no longer be productive in society, they are not useful and are really in the way. And so for some people, it's just as soon as possible. And of course, we think about this, people who get out and have their fun, then all of a sudden the women become pregnant. What do? Well, a child would just be a burden. I don't want to mess with it. So they abort the child. And because it would get his lifestyle. Recently I saw a meme on Facebook that said, if they abort babies because they get in the way, before they start aborting elderly. I mean, in other words, putting them to death. getting them out of our society. All right, so, and honestly, most of you who are listening to this probably are in that category that if you're not elderly right now, you will be very soon. And some of us appreciate the elderly because we are so close to being there ourselves. And we are hoping that people will respect us for our knowledge and our concern for others. And we know that the world could learn a lot from us. Certainly feel that if we were put in charge, a lot of common sense would return to our governments and our businesses. And we have so much to offer that goes ignored. And that's the way it is. That's the way this world operates. See, in my career, I worked in a business where the older ones usually had the answers to problems. If a situation come up, they'd get someone who'd been around for a while and they could remedy just any situation and give guidance to the. But as I came closer to retirement, my views, I realized, were not being respected. And even though the bosses agreed that my views were right and the best course of action and the but the younger ones wanted to do it their way and did not take any concern for how others would take it or if it would even be profitable for the company. And so this behavior permeates in our society. The young think that they know it all, and the old are just in their. And you know what? It's always been that way, and always will be that way. As the writer in Ecclesiastes said, there's nothing new under the sun. And so, and also, as the older ones were beginning to retire, and the ones I had been around for a while, they were soon forgotten. Their sage advice was ignored. And guess what? Problems started coming because people didn't take their sage advice, their wisdom. And many companies are losing ground in the marketplace these days because, well, I mean, there's nobody, they just turned it over all to the energy of young people, but they made poor decisions. So a lot of companies go belly up because they don't have the wisdom to keep them in a right, safe place. Yeah, there's always the warning. A lot of companies went out of business because the old dinosaurs, and that's literally what they call them. The old dinosaurs ways. And of course, companies have to adjust to the belly up and a lot. So what we're making is our to offer us. Nature leads us to do. We're kind of told to grow up, and then when we start doing things our own way, we're all of a sudden being told, no, don't do it that way. So yeah, it's a little confusing for a lot of people. But these people, the elderly, yeah, they made mistakes along the way, but you know what? They learned from their mistakes. And we know the younger are going to make mistakes, and hopefully we hope that they will learn from their mistakes and correct their mistakes. The problem is now, instead of acknowledging their mistakes, they just want to blame somebody else. And so the worst mistake anybody can make is to refuse some sage advice. I mean, it really is. So the Bible tells us we are to respect the elderly. In fact, God commands us to respect them. Our world seems to want to be rid of them as soon as possible. You know, even if you remember in the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, they had provisions in there that once people got to a certain age and were not as productive in life, they were supposed to be counseled on end of life options. And rather than suffer the pain and problems of old age and the expense of medical procedures, and that's really what it was about, the expense of medical procedures, it would be best if they choose to end their life than to put the burden upon society. It is their society that they built, and they owe it to society to not be a burden upon it. Now, that's sarcasm. If you can't understand that, if you haven't figured it out, that is pure sarcasm. That that is just as wrong as it can be. You know, one thing about the elderly is, yes, they have problems. I mean, work like it used to. They're not productive in the marketplace, and some of them go through dementia and other age-related problems. And we kind of sit back and are repulsed at the fact we see somebody sitting there and drool coming out of the side of their mouth, and I mean, pretty sight, and we're repulsed by it. And some families, they try their best, and sometimes it's at a great their time and the effort, having sheets and things like that, and really turn the parents into like treat them. Eventually, it gets to that point where families cannot take care of their own. They need special care. And so they turn it over to the professionals, and even that is very costly and expensive. And I know it's a difficult choice to make. You want to take care of them as the best of your ability, but you realize you can't, and you have to turn it over to professionals. And it's the right choice to make. You know, it is just as sad to see that many are ready loved ones into homes. And there's a lot of stories about people put in the homes, and they're always asking, did my children call today? Did anybody come see me today? And things like that. Yeah, that's sad when you think about it. Yes, I know of many who basically the kids put them away in a home. I mean, and then just did their own thing, didn't even check on them or anything like that. And that's really sad. So what I want to say is, please respect the elderly. I mean, you can learn a lot from them. I took the time to take the elderly and put them in a room with children. Elderly, I mean, children could learn a lot from them about that. And even young people. I mean, let the elderly teach a teenage class. And, I mean, teach them about life. I mean, they have so much to offer. And yet, some of them may seem a little grumpy all the time, and you don't want to be around them, but most likely their problem is they're probably in pain. And they're trying to hide their pain, but it's just too strong for them. And yeah, when you get to that age, and like I say, a lot of you probably have experienced this already, you're in pain a lot. And it's no fun. But trying to keep an upbeat attitude is kind of difficult. So I'm going to leave you with this proverb and sage advice, and you pay attention to it. May the Lord bless you with the same respect someday with the respect you show to the elderly today. You get that? May the Lord bless you with the same respect someday with the respect you show to the elderly today. When you get up to that age and you get having difficulty living, you're going to want people to respect you. And you're not going to want to be kicked and spit upon and mistreated and things like that. So consider those thoughts. Respect the elderly. I mean, they're a great treasure, and they can teach you a lot. I know over the years I learned a lot from those who were elderly, who had been through battles that I find myself to have handled. And I think listening to them gave me the wisdom, basically, be able to do all the stuff that I've had to deal with in my life. So the elderly are a great treasure, and appreciate them all the more. So think about this. Lord willing, and make someone's day. You know, you and give them a phone call, and they would appreciate that. In fact, my guess is they would say, well, thank you for calling. I mean, how many of you have heard that? Yes. Thank you for calling. I mean, so, yeah, do something nice for somebody and share the gospel message if you get the chance. That's the great of anybody is to turn to the Lord and trust in the Lord. All right. So you have a good day. Lord willing, be back again tomorrow. Bye bye for now.